had talked earlier in the session about like the sexting and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that like there's like that group think, like kids who normally wouldn't think that something was okay once they get together? Because I was thinking about a friend of mine whose nieces go to a very prominent private school in this
Yes.
area, and she talked about mixers, and all the kids would gather around, so the chaperones couldn't see what was going on, and the kids in the middle would be having sex, and everybody
Right.
would take pictures or whatever.
Right.
But normally you wouldn't think that those kids on their own would have been involved in that behavior, but then they get in this group and then it
Yes.
becomes okay.
Yes, that absolutely happens. It happens at the college level, it happens at the high school level, and it happens at the middle school level. And it will happen in the elementary school level too, because it's that herd behavior, H-E-R-D behavior. Well, if everybody's doing it, then it must be all right to do it. And yes, you're absolutely right. That is, not only do you see mixers where there's sexual behavior, but you see mixers where where kids are taking their parents' prescription medications. You know, kids will take a bottle. Part of coming to the party is bring a bottle of medicine from the medicine cabinet, and they dump it into a big punch bowl, and then everybody takes a handful. That's another phenomenon that has been described. And of course you know about rainbow parties, right? Who here knows about rainbow parties?
Please tell me.
Gosh, rainbow parties are kind of old these days. Do you guys know about rainbow parties? Not a soul in this room? No? Okay, well, rainbow parties are parties where these are usually late elementary school, early middle school age kids who go to a house party. And when they get to the house party, after they get past the parent who greets them at the door, the kids who are already there, or the person who's setting it up, hands to each girl a tube of lipstick, different colors of lipstick. Could be blue, could be, doesn't matter. The rainbow party is a party where the person who wins is the guy who has as many colors from the rainbow on his penis. That's what it's about. It's about oral sex, really for the purpose of just proving that you can do it. And it's not really oral sex in the way that you think of this long sexual contact. It's just putting your mouth on somebody's penis and leaving the imprint of the lipstick that you were given when you came in the door. It's almost like I Dare You, but it's really not exactly about that. Rainbow parties have been around for a long time, and it does surprise me that you do not know about it, but that's okay. Happy that you are aware of this, because rainbow parties can, as you can imagine, happen anywhere, right? I think I probably won't. Yeah, in the olden days, spin the bottle was, yeah, you know, when you go into the closet, okay, you two have to kiss. But, you know, nowadays, it's a totally different situation, and I'm so sorry that I have to break it to you. So that kind of gets us onto this topic of self-exploitation, that other form of child sexual exploitation. It's a form of exploitation that entails the use most commonly of ICT, information and communication technology. This would be the internet and cell phone technology, resulting in self-produced images. And the images are often the result of grooming by a youth or an adult. It's usually somebody who has encouraged your child. This has been researched to some degree, not as much as we'd like to see. The primary research that's out there, I'll show you that research, is criminal justice research. So it automatically reflects kids who have been arrested for self-exploitation, or law enforcement officers who have a knowledge regarding this. It really doesn't give us the good feel for, in the general population, how much is this going on. It's only those kids who get arrested. In the situation where grooming to self-exploit is by a youth, the purpose may be a component of youth romantic interaction. And I already explained that to you when I was talking to the Canadian police. You know, self-exploitation being a form of, this is what love is now. If you really love me, I just need to have this picture of you and me. Although nobody will ever know it was me. But everybody will know it was you. And what was happening, and what still does happen rather often today, is that when self-made pictures are made like that, or when a boyfriend takes a picture of his girlfriend involved in a very sexually explicit behavior, then the couple breaks up. What does the boyfriend do with that picture? That's exactly right. Then you get into the cyberbullying and revenge behavior where he disseminates it to everybody else. And what happens to that girl? Well, I actually have taken care of a patient like that and testified. I wrote an affidavit because her parents ultimately sued the families of the boys who did this to their daughter. What happened in that particular case was this young girl was an honor student, et cetera, et cetera. She was, I'm going to say, about 12 or 13 years of age when she started feeling that she was overweight when she wasn't overweight, you know, and she started looking at herself and feeling that she wasn't okay. Straight A student. She developed, in essence, anorexia nervosa. She ultimately had to leave her private Catholic school and go to a inpatient treatment facility for several months. And she left her school in late February, March of that school year, and she was in the inpatient service until about June or so. When she came home, she was on 2 psychotropic medications, and she was also on very careful monitoring to make sure she was eating adequately, et cetera. So she gets home from school, and she goes online, and one of the boys from her school sends her an email and says, oh, you know, I'm so happy that you're home. We've really missed you. How are you doing? And she's kind of glad that people haven't forgotten her, and so she's emailing back. And so they just start emailing each other for a couple of weeks. What she doesn't know is that this guy, as he is emailing her and she's talking back to him, starts talking about that to 2 other boys from that school, both of whom were boys who had asked her to be their girlfriend, and she had said no to them. So these 2 other boys don't have her best interest at heart, and they said, really? Oh, so we just want to come in and kind of sit in with you. We'll just come hang out at your house. We'll tell you what you ought to say to her so that maybe she could be your girlfriend, because she wasn't, you know, she just kind of blew us off. So then she's emailing back to a threesome, though she doesn't know that. And as time goes on, the guy is influenced by these 2 other boys to say, hey, you know, I really want you to be my girlfriend. I think you're beautiful. I'm not beautiful. Let me tell you, I'm really fat sometimes. No, you're really beautiful. I really missed you. I think you're really great. Would you be my girlfriend? Well, I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. Yeah, I love you. It, you know, kind of gradually in chat escalates to, you're the only girl I can ever have. So, okay, I'll be your girlfriend. And this kind of rite of passage through chat is very common in youth, very common. I can't tell you how many of my children in my office will tell me, I broke up with my boyfriend, I'm so sad. And I'll say, well, tell me how that happened. Well, he sent me an email and said we couldn't be boyfriend and girlfriend anymore. I said, oh, so it must be really hard when you went to school and talked to him. Talk to him in school? We don't ever talk in school. We never did talk in school. We only talk online. Major behaviors and relationships come and go, and it's all in chat. And I see some young people who recognize that, right? Yes, that, and so for those of you who don't know that, that's really how it happens these days. I have my patients to say, I'll say, so you're going to the prom with so-and-so? Yeah. How did he ask you? He sent me an email. Are you going to really go, or is it just going to be, you know, a webcam thing? I just want to have an idea here. That is really how it's very commonly that way. So to make a long story short with my victim, after she had agreed to go with him, and the weeks were going by, they were all going to be going to a new school because they were all going into the next level. They were all going into high school or junior high school. Anyway, he finally, and it didn't take him a long time, said, now you're my girlfriend. I want you to send me a video of you pleasuring yourself. That's the term that's often used. Pleasuring yourself is asking a person to masturbate in front of a webcam. She says, oh no, I couldn't do that, I couldn't do that. Oh yeah, it's because I love you, this is why I want you to do it, and you know, I'll be glad to do the same thing for you, but you know, it doesn't sound like you really need to see that from me, but I really need to see that from you. And so there's this long conversation about why, oh, I really don't want to do that. And it's always the clincher, this is what I see in my patients. The clincher argument is, I only want you to do this so I don't have to turn to somebody else. When that piece comes into the conversation, this is what tends to make girls comply and acquiesce, because they want to keep their boyfriend. And in this day and age, that's what keeping a boyfriend is somewhat like. Remember, you're still a virgin, nothing has ever happened to you. This will just help me not have to turn to somebody else. So she made an 8-second video. And she sent it to him. And as soon as she sent it to him, she said, oh, this is only for you. Don't show it to anybody. And make sure you destroy it. You're going to destroy it, right? Yes, I'm just going to look. But the somebody else were these 3 boys. It wasn't this one boy that saw that. And so here's a kid on 2 psychotropic medications, has chronic anxiety, has anorexia nervosa, who then goes to school after having been in an inpatient treatment program. First day of school, she comes into a new school with some kids that she knew and kids that she didn't know, and she walks into the classroom, and the first thing that is said to her by some of the girls in that classroom, "Hey everybody, it's the porn queen." That's what met her when she first went to school. So, she almost became suicidal. You can imagine, right? Because these 3 boys had sent that 8-second video to everybody in their class. And that's where it was. And there she was, extraordinarily exploited in that manner. Her parents went to the principal of the school and talked to him about it. The principal called the boys in. The boys confessed, yes, we did do that. The principal said, well, that's not a Christian thing to do. Don't do that again. But there was no other retribution. And in fact, when the parents came in and said, we want some kind of discipline against these boys, the principal said, you better be lucky that your daughter's not going to prison for producing child pornography. That's what the principal said to the parents. So the child managed to make it through that school year. She had an absolute in a void school year. She went to school and she came home every day. She participated in no activities. This is a kid who'd been class president. She'd been an honor student. She participated in no activities. She was asleep by 5 o'clock in the evening and slept until she had hypersomnolence. She slept until the next morning, would get up robotically, would go to school, come back, not talk to anybody on the phone for a whole school year. She managed to keep her grades up, but that's all she did. She was, basically a robot. And so her parents could see how horrible this was, because she told her parents right away what had happened. And they got over, blaming her. So at the end of that school year, the parents decided they had to do something. So they took the money they had set aside for her college and spent it on a out-of-state private school, for her boarding school for her to go to. And that's what she did. And she got much better. She was in an environment where nobody knew about all of this. She started becoming more well-adjusted. She was getting therapy in a different state. And she, when I met her, she had graduated from high school, had a scholarship to college, and was, in my opinion, doing well. However, she came home her senior year, and yeah, it was her senior year. She came home. She'd been away for 3 years now by this point. Came home for school year. And so you would think coming home, there would still, when she came home, she really didn't interact with many people in her hometown or anything. But that senior year, during the Christmas holidays, because her mom sent me the audio clip. This is in another state, not North Carolina. A kid from the school who was a 9th grader, she's a senior, says, hey, my name is so-and-so. And you can hear everybody laughing in the background like he was at a party. He said, and hey, I just want to find out if you can hook up with me, because I saw that video and you're just so, oh my gosh, you're so hot. And so I really want to find out, will you make a video for me, baby? This is a kid she has no knowledge of. She's never met this guy. Her parents got that voicemail message, when they got home from work. She had not heard it. But the point was, it just wasn't going away. 3 years later, she is, et cetera, et cetera. So the parents decided to sue. I thought they were going to sue the school, but they didn't sue the school. They sued the parents of the 3 offender boys who had gotten nothing. And this was one of the first cases that was won from the perspective of the judge. The judicial ruling was that the parents did have the right, and they were only suing for the cost of the private school, because that's what they had to spend in order for their daughter to be okay. They were not asking for pain and suffering money. They were just asking for the money they had to spend in order to send her away to school. So self-exploitation can take on a cyberbullying component, and it can last on and on and on. That was a real setback for that young lady. She really had a hard time when she found out about that audio tape. And her parents didn't want her to know, but they had to turn it over to the lawyers and all that kind of stuff. So she found out about it. And it is that part of exploitation that victims speak of with respect to the concept of invasion of privacy. I feel as if I'm never going to be safe because these images or this audio tape, whatever, it's never going to go away. That's how victims do feel, and that really is a reality. Okay, so it started like this. Oh, let's see if I can turn that up.
Confiscated students' cell phones after learning nude images of two female students have been forwarded to dozens of phones. Officials believe the girls took the pictures themselves and sent them to their boyfriends, who passed the images along.
I think the kids that made the choice to do this had a very mature look on things. This is something that crops back up on MySpace or some website somewhere down the line.
The pictures were deleted and the phones returned, but some students believe the district went too far.
They got a lot of people in trouble. They got a lot of innocent people in trouble, and it shouldn't have happened. The whole thing just was stupid.
I can't believe like Santa Fe would do anything like this.
Some parents
It's a sad day.
can't believe phones meant to communicate could be used to spread nude pictures of underage girls.
So let's have a little short tabletop exercise. Poor Mike, too bad. You're the one who's in charge of all these kids that come to your camp. So you have kids in a camp that your organization has sent information to about safety, etc. And a camp kid comes to you and says, so-and-so took a picture of me with their cell phone camera while I was in the shower or while I was in the bathroom. What happens next?
I think you need to confront the kid that he claimed did it.
Okay, so that would be one step to validate and verify what the child has said has happened. Since cell phones are allowed, and almost all cell phones have cameras. So now you have a child who is, and you find in fact that there is a picture of one of the kids who went to the bathroom or something, or who was showering, and this other kid has taken a picture with their cell phone camera. Let me look at this row, which has been very studious. They've been very studious. So you all are a committee, and you're meeting now to decide what should you do. Should you send the kid home who was the offender? How do you tell the parents what happened? Okay, so you all are discussing that. Tell me what your thoughts are. They are the thinkers. Rodin, here. What do you all think? You can talk to each other. You're a group. You're not just a single person.
Everybody's looking at you.
Well, I think first of all, we would delete the picture, I would assume. I think.
I'm not sure you should do that. You should not. Right.
Oh, that would be evidence, right?
Right.
Yes, okay, that would be evidence.
That's right.
Right.
Tampering with the evidence. Good start, right? Nah, not a good idea, right?
We should have talked about this, right?
Right, go ahead.
I think in our specific setting, we would discuss with the child along with the chaperone in this case.
The child offender.
Yes, the child offender first. But then we would also have another staff member talk with the victim, with their chaperone.
Okay, all right.
And then we would talk to, in our setting, our compliance officer in HR, right? A report to. And then from there, we would call the necessary, I should say, authorities.
Y'all in agreement?
And I don't know, until we develop this policy, I don't know if it would have happened 2 years ago, I don't know that we may have taken the step of confronting the offender, but I don't think we may not have known where to go after that point.
Okay, that's,
Or we, maybe after it happened, we would have thought, yeah, that would have been the right thing to do, but in a moment like that, without the policy that's been developed, I don't know that we would have taken the right step.
so here's a couple questions. How is this situation, a child who's taken a picture of another child in a you know, in a nude circumstance. How is it different from how you would handle a kid who beats up a kid behind the cabin early in the evening before, you know, before lights out or whatever, and the crying kid comes and said he beat me up? How does that get handled? And how, because both of them would be bullying scenarios, so how would you handle that kind of situation and then compare that to this kind of situation?
I don't think the initial steps would be that different.
Normally you would have the child offender and their chaperone come forward and you talk to them. That was the first step that you just said for our first scenario.
I think it would be a simultaneous step, the offender and the victim.
Okay.
Same time, but in different locations, not together.
Oh, okay, okay. I was wondering if it was going to be a kumbaya moment or not. Oh, okay, okay.
But I think what makes it different is that is the technology aspect, is that it lives on, or it has the potential to live on longer than the bruise,
Mm-hmm.
the physical aspect. I think that's one of the only things that makes it different. There are some things that make it it's similar, but and the initial steps in some ways are similar, but that is the piece that makes it different.
Right, right. Row behind you. The same thing happens. Two kids beat each other. One kid beats another kid up behind the cabin, and another child at that camp meeting takes pictures of that fight, makes a video of that fight, and shows the end of the child who's gotten beaten up on the ground crying and the victor walking away. You better not ever do that again. This is a video production. Tell me how you all would manage it. You all can talk to each other.
I don't know that it would be much different than, you know, what Jeff has spoken about with our steps. You know, obviously has a little longer lasting impression now that it's,
Memorialized
yeah,
on video, right.
and potentially can revive and relive itself over and over again.
Right.
Kind of the same manner that pre-described one.
Right, right. The purpose of the discussion is, now this is where, if there's nothing illegal that has happened in your circumstance, deleting the video in the presence of the victim may have some reparation value. You know, you guys are the authorities. I mean, not you in particular, but you know, the camp counselors are the authorities. They are the judges and the jury, so to speak. You see that something has been done wrong. A person has memorialized it by taking a video. And let me tell you something. People taking videos of victims of crime is the rule these days, more so than the exception. You see it on TV all the time, where people are getting beat up or horrible things are happening to them and somebody's taking a video of it with their cell phone camera. So therefore, being able to show that victim that you have deleted or done away with or whatever, that particular video of their getting beat up by this other person that nobody knew about but the victim and the offender, makes that child feel better. But I would think that you would want to do more than just delete it and say that was really not a nice thing to do. Probably what you need to be thinking about are what are your rules from the get-go regarding access to video cameras with respect to cell phones that you have in your camping situations. Because can you see how I can see how they can not really provide a whole lot of good things, and you certainly can have some problems that occur with that. It is something that you might really want to be thinking about so you don't have to worry about this person having a cell phone camera that they take a picture of somebody or a video of somebody showering or going to the bathroom. Does that make sense? It's just something you just might want to think about with that respect.
Would it be a wise policy just to not allow cell phones at camp?
Well,
Just to live without them.
this is true. This is true. And I personally like no technology when you get out. You know, it's kind of good to at least be in a nature environment where that's not going to be the distraction, because it's a huge distraction. Or you can have access to cell phones for a window of time every day in case kids want to call their parents and check in or all that kind of thing. But not necessarily have them all day, because they are just a huge distraction to children, and they have the potential of being a source of damage to other children that you might want to think. And I would make it yes or no, not one that can take videos or not one that can take color pictures. You know, because then there's too much that you have to put into it in screening the kids as they come in, along with the knives and box cutters that you're making sure that they're not bringing into the camp, right? So it's just something for you to be thinking about, because the question is, why have that risk in this 5-day period of time while kids? Does that make sense to you? Now, Mike, you're the one who, you know, has direct contact. What do you think? How do you think the parents would feel?
Without cell phones?
Their children without cell phones. I mean, after all, they send their children with cell phones to this, right?
It'd be tough.
And again, it doesn't have to be no cell phones at all, but it could be that the children have access to some kind of communication back with their parents if they need to, right?
Yeah, that would be good. I mean, trying to police that and make sure they only use it. I think if you tell them they can only use it at a certain time, they're going to be trying to go off and sneak it,
Yes, I would agree.
where it might even cause more issues.
That's a good point. I see a hand back there too, right?
I mean, can't you put a little of that onto the chaperone to say you need to collect the cell phones from all of the kids and let them each have it for, one
X amount of time.
check in with their parents, but then give it back again?
That's what schools do. Go ahead.
I would say that's gonna be tough because in most scenarios, the chaperones are on their phones more than the kids.
Good point.
So
See one, do one, teach one, right?
that we would be able to do it is when they check in, if they have a cell phone, you collect it just like their medicine. And then if we have a certain time for them to call home, there's a half-an-hour window each time.
Did everybody hear what he said? Yes, to collect the cell phones like you collect medicine, and somebody dispenses it at a certain time, and that's the window of time for that. I'm not trying to solve that problem for you. Those are internal discussions, but it's just food for thought that I wanted you to have as we talk about this whole issue of self-exploitation.
Real quick.
Yes.
There are some kids out there also that have the same type of anxiety as in internet gaming, where they know they're not gonna be able to do their cell phone all day, so they're not.
Yes, there are children like that. There definitely are.
Do you foresee, if we do take cell phones away and drop them off, do you foresee issues
I would
of those kids?
I think what you'd want to do is you'd want to make sure parents understood this a long time before the children ever came, because then the parents can decide if they want to let their children come, because they know how their children are. But it's very interesting. You know, when we first started getting into sexting, really sexting came after texting. Texting first came on board. And I remember the first time I had a father to come into my office and say, "Doctor, I just need some help. My son, who is 14, has a new girlfriend. She's 12. And I got my telephone bill. He had sent more than 3,000 texts in 1 month to this girl. So I calculated that. I think it was like 60 texts a day or something like that. You know, there were just 3,600, I think would have been 60 texts a day. I thought, wow, that would be all through the night and everything else. That would be like 6 or 12 texts an hour. I mean, it was really an extraordinary amount of texting. It was McGill University that has done the research on that. What is the motivation when people, especially boys, are texting girls, or anybody for that matter, like that? What do you think the motivation is? Is it just that they just like hearing from them? What do you think? Power and control. It is. That's what McGill University showed. It said people who text like that want to have total control over the person that they're texting to. Because most of these texts are like this: what are you doing now? How come you didn't call me? You didn't tell me where you're going now. What did you decide to wear to this? Such and such. It's extraordinary power and control. And how do girls, let's use this as male and female, how do girls interpret that kind of attention from a boyfriend?
I mean, they don't know that at that point, so they think they can admire.
The more, the better. That's right. And so imagine if you have a girl, she's 11, and she has a new boyfriend, he's 12, and he's texting her like that, and you're going to send her to a baseball camp where she cannot use her cell phone except for, 1 hour or whatever during the course of the day. Tell me about that. What do you all think? This is a good role. What do you all think?
I don't think she'd go to the baseball camp.
You think she wouldn't go to the camp?
She would be miserable.
She would tell her parents, I can't be away from him that long. And what do you think the parents would do?
Send her anyway.
If they're good parents, they would. Good parents would send her anyway. Yes, go ahead.
If she goes, she might have like severe anxiety.
She likely will, you know, because it's not even her, it's him. He'll have severe anxiety as well. And we are unopening. You see how your camp policies can make a big difference in the life of a child, but perhaps for the better. Perhaps for the better, because these are the kinds of discussions, since you have discussions sometimes in the evening in the cabins, these are some of the social issues of youth discussions that can be very helpful, I think, as time goes on. I think
it's interesting hearing the discussion. Maybe it's a sign of the times, but we wouldn't allow a kid who smoked to smoke during camp because he has an addiction.
Good point. Good point.
It's almost like we're favoring the kid because we might upset him if we take their phone away.
Very well
There's
said.
all these risks we just kind
Right.
of said exist.
Right, right. I'm laughing because you are, what I encourage parents to do is to parent their children by the golden rule. She who makes the gold makes the rules. That's the golden rule, right? You know, and if I'm paying for you to go to camp, this is what camp is going to be like. And that's the way it's going to be. You'll live through it. It's amazing, but you are absolutely right. There are an awful lot of catering parents, you know. They call them helicopter parents. That's the term that's used, you know, who are constantly, well, I just don't know. I don't want to upset them. I want this to be fun for them. Being fun sometimes means taking them out of the same old and putting them into a different environment that allows them to walk in the woods in the afternoon, you know, with no technology, no bar, where you can't get any reception, and actually talk to people face to face. And wow, wouldn't that be just a really ironic thing? But you are absolutely right about that. It's kind of a wake-up call in that sense.